One of the rarest and most interesting things in the world of Escape from Tarkov is the ability to witness two sides of an interesting fight from both angles. Now, over the last week, I've had two such moments, and it's amazing how much we can learn from experiencing these encounters side by side, as well as the resulting assumptions and discussions that came from it. Now, as you all know, it's pretty natural to be salty when you lose in a video game. As far back as I can remember, all the way back to the NES days, it was instinctual to blame the game or others for your loss. And this instinct is still deeply ingrained in most of us. I still get upset, just like most of you guys, but surprisingly enough, when I started streaming, it was actually really easy to control my normal negative response to loss. I personally found it easier to react more chill to losses as I felt the onstage pressure and was more self aware. Now, I have to admit that as I've grown and become more comfortable on stream over the last year and a half or so, it's become a lot easier to let out the natural salt, become a bit more real, I guess, in front of you guys. Now, interestingly enough, this can and has been perceived as me becoming a fake or jaded, whiny streamer just complaining all the time. To be honest, I've simply found it that as my stream has grown, I've become more comfortable in front of the camera and my community. So I'm more comfortable responding to loss and frustration closer to my normal off camera ways. I'm not a perfect person. In fact, there's lots of things I do and feel every day on stream that I'm not proud of and have lots to work on as a content creator, a gamer, and a person. I'm envious and inspired every day by watching other content creators who are better at handling these sorts of things than I am. And work every day to try to improve to get closer to those people who I find as inspirations. So I try to be honest and as self-reflective as I can, which is always easier said than done in the heat of the moment. There are countless examples, probably at least one per stream, of me dying and maybe even sometimes winning, and immediately complaining and jumping to conclusions about the opposing player's strategy, personality, motivations, and even legitimacy. Now, due to the nature of Tarkov and the layer of anonymity that comes with people constantly changing their in-game names, the lack of a kill cam or replay feature, etc., it's exceedingly rare that we actually get to examine these experiences after the fact and reflect on our assumptions to see if and what we might have been wrong about. With no true feedback loop, it's easy to understand how every negative experience in Tarkov can be blamed on campers, hackers, or desync. The lack of a real feedback loop, combined with the general lack of understanding about the mechanics of the game's ballistic system, long-standing bugs, and other quirks, and the negative feedback loop and echo chamber in the various Tarkov community discords, forums, subreddits, and Twitch streams, leads to a pretty toxic environment much of the time. Now, I know this is all getting a bit meta and philosophical, but I honestly think that this is something that if we all pay attention to, embrace, understand, and learn from, that the Tarkov community as a whole would greatly benefit from. As you watch the following clips, I want you to keep in mind a few different things. Firstly, dig deep back into your memory and be honest with yourselves and consider how many times you've done this before as a player, as a streamer, or as a spectator on YouTube or Twitch. Think about the countless times you've made assumptions about someone or something in Tarkov without having the benefit of multiple live recorded perspectives to vindicate or correct you. Now, I know I've personally done this many times, probably more than I can count. Both of the fights that we're going to be watching were against other streamers. The first was a coincidental encounter with one of my mods and one of the best buds from my community, flooven, and another was with a really cool guy who I just recently met, narcotixx, who I know in the past has killed me at least once. Now, while this is an interesting thing to examine from the perspective of things like netcode, latency, desync, and the like, the most interesting thing for me was the perception of the opposite parties involved on every side before any of us had any actual evidence to back them up. There we go.
Fucker.
Insect spot. You mother. Enemies!
I think he's... I can't fucking see where this guy is, dude. Have any more nades? I got one more.
Stop hiding. Son of a... Is this your fair? You should try better. Give up! You're pinned! He's vanished. Stop hiding!
Untitled Chapter.
Fucking Christ, dude.
Thinking. Where's that strat?
He's in the middle here somewhere. Guy's fucking macroing for sure.
Just drop dead!
Now, I have no reason to believe that any of the parties involved were stream sniping anybody else, playing in any way that was considered unfair or not legit in any way. In my fight against Flooven, I actually thought that I was getting engaged by an entire team of 3 or 4. With all the different gunshots and sounds that I was hearing across the way and the hectic nature of the engagement, if I had died, I might have complained about the shitty players that can't win without a full squad to back them up. Turns out he was a solo player too, pinned down by raiders, and responding as best he could to the pressures he faced in the moment, which is exactly what I was experiencing at the time. Now, as soon as he died, the first response in his chat from someone who's actually also a member of my community was to call me a camper. Now, this was quickly laughed off and forgotten when it was found out that it was me.
Damn it. That guy was good. That was fun. That was probably the most fun fight of the night. It was... I mean, there was no reason. It was a stupid play. I tried to, like, get over there so that maybe I could kind of, like... It was fucking... It was Veritas. I thought he was still running factory. Yeah, that was Veritas. Fuck, dude. The last raid.
As soon as his grenade started flying in towards me, you can hear me mumble under my breath, "Oh, here we go." There we go. As I'm already queuing up the complaint about grenade spammers being unskilled or unable to kill anybody with guns and bullets. Unbeknownst to me, the player on the other end of the fight was Flooven, who's a very skilled shooter, someone I've played with a bunch of times, and who's not someone who spams grenades. He uses grenades the same way as I do, to flush players out of cover, use as utility to help control a fight. Now, I didn't say it out loud when it was happening, but I remember pretty vividly that at the time, if I had died to a grenade during my fight with narcotixx, I probably would have went off complaining to Twitch chat for 5 minutes about grenade spamming idiots, and my chat would have most likely sided with me, reinforcing this kind of shitty attitude. Now, as soon as I started firing my ADAR at narcotixx, both him and his chat were pretty much fully convinced that I was using a macro and were upset that they couldn't have a legit fight, something I know I've personally complained about many times. A few folks in my chat were 100% convinced beyond any shadow of a doubt that he was stream sniping me because there's no other way that he could have known where I was and, what I was doing there. They made that assumption and were nearly 100% convinced it was the case. Now, once we watched back the other perspective altogether, they immediately realized how clearly my audio could be heard from his perspective so that I could be localized. Realizing that's all my opponent would need to have to play it like they did, they admirably did the right thing and admitted that they were wrong. Now, pretty much everybody involved in these fights made faulty assumptions, complained about some silly shit. Basically, in a nutshell, we're all just normal gamers being gamers. Let's take this experience as a fantastic and rare learning opportunity to reflect on what it is we're actually doing here. To remember that we're all people. The good players, the bad players, the campers, the experienced folks, the new guys, the hatchlings, content creators, grenade spammers, people in Twitch chat, mosenlings, and even the developers. Forget about the loss of what amounts to nothing more than pixels. Whether we win or lose, Tarkov is a heart-pumping, exciting, nutty experience that should be intense and fun for everybody to watch and experience together. We all too often forget that we're trying to have fun, enjoy ourselves, and entertain, and that the person on the other end of the network connection is a human being. Be thankful for the devs who have made a game where we can experience a minuscule, safe and sanitized sliver of the shit that far too many folks experience in real life every day around the world. We can experience it from the safety of our gamer chairs, and be grateful for those that do actually experience these things in real life so that you don't have to. Get a grasp on the boundaries of your understanding and experience and how it compares to the massive void that's our ignorance. Let's all do our best to expand the boundaries into that void, and we'll all be better for it. It starts with self-reflection, honesty, knowledge, evidence, skepticism, and ultimately, it ends in truth. Be safe out there.